Welcome to Patreon, a place where we can speak openly and speak freely because there is no corporate America here. There are no ads, there are no advertisers. And that's very important to understand because it gives us an insight into the power of our enemy. You see, they want to threaten corporate America, which is in a very tenuous state right now because of COVID, with some further pain. Speaking of BLM and Antifa. But in doing so, they have given us an incredible opening to let them consume themselves while we sit back, pop popcorn, and watch the show. Now, ironically enough, it was a black man in a show many years ago, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, that gave us the play-by-play, that gave us all of the tools necessary that we need to do this. You see, we don't have just one enemy. We have two in the episode called The Pale Moonlight. This particular character, being the captain of a space station, had gotten very desperate. There was an enemy closing in and they were losing a war. There was another group, though, that could have changed the tide. They were very powerful, but they were staying out of the war. He had to find a way to make one enemy think the other enemy was an imminent threat. And he found a way to do it, and it was very ugly, and it was very nasty. But you have to ask yourself a question. Do you want to win? Do you want to win? Do you want to feel good about winning, or do you want to win? People bend, and they adapt, but they don't change. They don't. They absolutely don't. That is rule one. You have to understand. People do not change. White people don't change. Black people don't change. They are going to be who they are. We are going to be who we are, pardon me. What we have to do is start illuminating the differences in their camp. See, what they've done a very good job of is illuminating the differences in the camp of quote-unquote white people or unwoke white people. And they've even gotten so far as to get to celebrities and bands and say that they're going to change, like Lady Antebellum's going to change their name to Lady A and all this kind of stuff. As if anybody ever listened to them and had Reconstruction South come to their mind. It was ridiculous. But what people do is they have momentary steps outside of their true character. And this is the case right now. These are just momentary steps outside of the normal, true character of two groups of people. So, what can we do? What's the definitive guide? What's step one? What do I do? Here's the first thing you do, is you start, tongue-in-cheek, on whatever social media platform you have, start equating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and this character, Medea, played by the comedian Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry is a preacher. He's a Christian. He's a moralist, as was, of course, Dr. King. But I really kind of wonder what Dr. King would have thought about a cross-dressing black male trying to get up and speak about Christian moral value. Now, this is just step one. You don't couch it that way. You have to really sell the honest connection between the goodness and light and peace of both of these characters. That's step one. Then you have to connect Tyler Perry, of course, to Big Mama and RuPaul. Because what are they? They are all black actors, all entertainers, cross-dressers. And tie all this together with Dr. King. Because they're a simple-minded folk, the BLM types. They will understand the connection. This is the part where they fall apart. Black Lives Matter and the gay community do not get along. They do not get along. And remember, to someone like Dr. King, a man dressing up in women's clothes for whatever reason, whether he was gay or whether he was not gay, was doing the same thing. Might as well have been from the era he came from. You see, the Black Lives Matter people, the folks, the civil rights folks, they make the allegation, I can't not be black tomorrow, but you could choose to not be gay. And then, of course, the gay people lose their mind because God made me this way. That's the key. See, God made them gay. That takes you back to Dr. King, the Baptist preacher. But you see, they don't buy it. They absolutely don't buy it. The Black Lives Matter guys, they don't buy the equivalence with the gay community because they still see within the core of their community that gay is a choice. Behavior is a choice. You can feel attraction to someone of the same sex, but acting out on it is a choice. Now, here's where it gets even more effective. You can tie Tyler Perry to this man, T.D. Jakes. Tyler Perry gave T.D. Jakes $1 million for his ministry. See, these are the heroes of this group, this people. And remember, you can't talk about this in any kind of a denigrating way. You have to talk about this in a very uplifting way and let the viewers of it make their own leaps, because you can then tie T.D. Jakes to a man named Eddie Long. This guy here on the left. Some of you may know this story about Bishop Eddie Long and T.D. Jakes' defense of Eddie Long, the guy who coerced these 5 other young men when they were teenagers into sexual acts. Going once again to the homosexual community, tying this all in with Martin Luther King, and letting them see the contradiction in their own minds. Now, all of this will cause dissent, strife, and grief inside BLM, but what about Antifa? What about Antifa? Oh yeah, you can also throw in Jussie Smollett if you want, just for fun. You see, Antifa has a problem. Antifa wants to destroy the very institutions that BLM needs to enforce their new belief system. You see, BLM wants to defund white police. BLM would not have any problem with black police going into white neighborhoods and randomly pulling out rich white people. You can actually, there's a clip from a show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's Aisha Tyler, and pardon me, and the black regular character. And they talk about all of the white crime that has gone unpunished. See, they have no problem with that. Antifa wants to smash the very institutions that BLM needs to enforce the new America. Remember when Barack Obama talked about a new civilian force as powerful as the U.S. military, as well-funded as the U.S. military, to enforce the new paradigm? You see, this is where they will diverge. You need to talk about how you can't defund the police because you're going to need the new black police to make things right with the evil white man. And when you go back to the quote from Dr. King where he said, I think we are integrating into a burning house, you let them make the leap. Where BLM looks at Antifa and says, wow, look at all of these overprivileged white kids thinking that they can identify with my struggle. And then when the gay community starts talking about their equivalence to black people, and the black people lose their mind, they will start to self-consume. The gay people will go after the blacks that are intolerant. The blacks will go after Antifa. Antifa will then realize the illogic of its state. And we can just sit back and watch. And yeah, this is an ugly way of winning. It is an ugly, dirty way of winning, but they have shown that they're not the brightest bulbs. If you were living in a country where you represented 13% of the population and your perceived enemy represented 63% of the population and they controlled the vast majority of the guns and the money, you would not want to burn down the government that's protecting you. You would not want to burn down the government that is protecting you. See, they see the government as attacking them. They see the government as making things worse for them. They not having any idea that if they rip down all of those protections, they rip down all of those institutions like BLM is trying to do. People don't change. Just because a police officer isn't wearing blue doesn't change the man who was wearing the uniform. You can take all sorts of ex-cons and take them out of prison, take them out of their jumpsuits. It doesn't change who they are. They're just as much of a threat today not wearing their jumpsuit as they were the day before wearing their jumpsuit. So if you want to see the cops as a threat, the fact that the government has put a uniform on them, put them in a car that you can identify and say, that is the person over there you need to be afraid of. I'm just speaking from their perspective here. They're doing you a favor by doing that. Saying, okay, that's where the enemy is. But then when the enemy, what you perceive to be, or what they perceive to be, don't misunderstand me here, the enemy can then just blend into the population. Not too bright. I know it seems like in the media that they are getting more and more and more headway, but the problem is within them. The problem is that they don't understand who they're standing with. The gay community, the black community, Antifa, they will consume themselves. They will destroy themselves eventually. You just have to be the catalyst for it. You just have to illuminate for them things like this. Things like this. Things like this. And this. The great heroes of their community. And the hypocrisy. Because they want to have their world make sense, and it won't. Because they don't understand their own illogic, which is our asset. We don't have to do a thing, but just illuminate things that, ironically, the AI, if you're going to do it on YouTube, if you're going to do it on Facebook, if you're going to do it on Twitter, is going to see as non-threatening. In fact, they might have it set right now to promote it. Because the AI does not have the ability to see the subtle nuance. It really doesn't. So, anyway, 14 minutes. The episode from Deep Space Nine is called The Pale Moonlight. Romulans, Dominion War, Cardassian Spy. Any of those searches will get you to that particular episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you can see what was done and how well it was done. How they made the Romulans believe the Dominion was their enemy when they weren't, causing the Romulans to enter the war on the side of the Federation, which flipped the tide of battle. Which is basically the same exact thing as we're going to do. We'll leave it there. Like, share, subscribe. God bless. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.